Looks like we're live right now. I was going to do a countdown, but we're not going to do a countdown. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Purple Code. This is SKOL Report with SK. Yes, we're back again. This is episode 2 of SKOL Report, the return of SKOL Report. And I am here with a special guest, a new guest, which you guys are going to start to see a lot more of. And this is Jamie Gellerstedt. How you doing, Jamie?
Hey, what's going on, man? It's going pretty good. It's going pretty good. How's it going over there?
All right, man. All right. Yeah. I'm ready to get this season going. I'm excited. What are we, about a month away before the season kicks off? 2 weeks away from our first preseason game in Vegas. So things are heating up, man.
Yeah,
things are heating up. But before we get into the training camp talk and everything like that, I'm sure there's people watching wondering, like, who is this Jamie guy? We got another random guy on the page. Who's Jamie G? And just so you guys know, we go out there and we try to find the best content creators around that are talking Vikings. And Jamie and his partner Casey, who unfortunately can't join us today, are joining the Purple Code for a weekly show, not only on Facebook, but on YouTube as well, mainly on YouTube. That's where you guys do most of your content. So, I mean, before we talk about your actual podcast, and we're going to do it real quick before we get into the training camp talk, what made you a Minnesota Vikings fan, and how long have you been a Minnesota Vikings fan?
So, I've been a Viking fan since, I would say, all right, actually, I've never said this on the podcast yet before, but technically, so don't get mad at me. I mean, I was a young kid. This is how any story always starts out badly. And this one's like the most bad of them all that I'm the least like happy about. Anyway, so I'm from Duluth, Minnesota. We're both, me and Casey, my partner in this, partner in crime, but we're right across the bridge from Superior. So we see a lot of like Viking, Packers stuff, whatever. So half my family is like from Wisconsin, from Superior. I had an older cousin that at the time had a lot of influence on me. So like when I was like 4 years old or something, he turned me into like a Packer fan. It's BS. I know. So then I think like the next year it's bad. So I didn't want to, I was going to say the story eventually, no matter what, but obviously like, you don't want to talk about being
felt like the proper time.
Yeah. I was like, no, I'm going to say, if I'm going to tell you how I became a Viking fan, I'll say it. So then, so I asked my mom for a Packer jersey, and then she accidentally got me a Jets jersey. So I was like, all right, I guess I like the Jets now. And then I was like 4 or 5 years old. So I'm really young. I don't know what I'm doing, obviously.
Yeah.
The Packers or then the Jets. And then my mom, or not my mom, but we were just watching a Viking game, I think. So this is probably, it's probably around the 1998 season. I'm still pretty young. I was born in 92, so I'm like 6. So it's like, that's not the season that like influenced me hardcore, but it was the one everybody was excited and I could feel the excitement. And I think that's kind of how I became a Viking fan.
Kickstart to your fandom.
And then after that, it kind of grew and grew. I would say probably when it like really took, like I was like hardcore Vikings is everything. Was probably the year we drafted Adrian Peterson. Because I don't know, as soon as we did that, I started like fantasy football and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden it just like grew into more and more and more. And obviously to the day you make a podcast and talk about Vikings all the time.
Yeah, man, I follow that pretty much that same path line as my Vikings fandom. I was born in 91. I became a fan in 98 when I started somewhat understanding the game. Not necessarily fell off, but I really started to get a hang of the game when Adrian Peterson came along and I was able to study it as a high school student. So I followed that same kind of path line as a Vikings fan. But it's a good thing you kind of, you made the right choice at the end of the day.
Oh, no question.
Because they're trying to set you up for failure with that Packers shit.
Yeah, right. A lot of mistakes I've made in my like my life, and that's the biggest one for sure. So
well, David McHenry, I like sharing you guys' comments down here. He shared with us, been a fan since the mid-70s, grew up seeing the Purple People Eaters and Chuck Foreman, the spin doctor. Chuck, he's a really cool guy. He was actually at training camp these past few days, signing autographs, talking to fans and stuff. But one more question before we get into training camp. I want you to kind of plug your guys' show. You and Casey, like I said, are doing a weekly show on the Purple Code. And like we've mentioned in the past, we are bringing you guys content every single day of the season. So we're not going to take a break. You're going to be seeing one of our beautiful faces in front of your screen talking Vikings every single day. So yourself, Jamie, and Casey, you guys are bringing GG Sports Podcast to the Purple Code. What can we expect from your guys' podcast?
So from our podcast in general, like you said, it's me and Casey. Casey Gallier, he's Casey, or Jamie Gallier, Casey Grande. So that's like the whole GG Sports Podcast thing. It was like a play on words with our last names. That's what we did. I would say our podcast in general, we are kind of like a little bit longer form. I guess kind of what we're going to do on this. I think for this season, what we're going to try is probably kind of base a lot of our content. This is for our personal one, around the recaps of games and then like reviewing the upcoming game and kind of build on each one of those, try to get that kind of better. So you'll see a lot of that, and we're going to really try to get like live stream or something pretty close to after every game, just to get that kind of initial reaction. Things after a couple days, things kind of calm down or whatever. So we'll see how that goes. As far as this goes, we're going to do some new stuff. But as far as this goes, we're still kind of figuring out how we're going to approach this. We'll probably start with a couple things and try kind of feel it out a little bit, I think. And I don't know, just try to see figure out, get an idea what everybody else is doing on this platform. And then maybe just see what we can do a little bit different. And I don't know, a lot of this is a lot of trial and error and figuring stuff out and see what people want.
I know you guys talk a lot of fantasy football too.
Yeah, and we could do that. I mean, we could jump into some fantasy football. Huge fantasy football guy. I mean, any of the stuff, sport betting a little bit, but yeah, we love fantasy football. We do a lot of fantasy football content on ours. Some of the stuff we do, even if it's not, it's not going directly towards Viking fans, but we kind of do try to push it around Viking fans a little bit. Yeah, but it's just fun to do. It's just fun to do, fun to talk to. So that's another thing we talked about, even just hopping in here. When you get dedicated on making like a podcast and creating continuous content, you kind of want to base it around things that you want to talk about and not just like force a lot. So it's like, if we want to do fantasy football, even if our Viking fans aren't going to watch it as much as other things, you just kind of do it just because you like to do it. And then there is the ones that are interested in seeing that content. So
yeah, absolutely. So be sure to go and give them a follow on YouTube. If you guys don't already, you might already know them. GG Sports Podcast on YouTube. Go ahead and give them a follow, subscribe to the channel. But like I said, you'll be seeing them on the Purple Code as well. Every Thursday starting August 11th, you will be seeing Jamie and Casey on the Purple Code. So let's get down to business. We're a week into training camp. Very exciting. We've seen a whole new shift and a whole new energy around the building, and that's kind of where I want to start.
Yes.
The thing that's been the most obvious to me, and I think the most obvious to everybody, let's be real, is just the energy around the building, the energy around the facility. Everybody has a smile on their face. Everybody looks like they're having fun. We didn't have any injury scare this first week. Like it's feeling really good around the Vikings practice.
I do think Jesse Davis might have something minor going on, but other than that,
that's right.
That's like the only thing I think of, which is nothing big. And even ISM is back after his injury, I believe, because
he's out of the walking boot.
Yeah, he's
out of the walking boot. So, and he's actually, I think he's wide receiver 4 on the depth chart right now, at least. So he's ahead of Albert Wilson. He's ahead of guys like BC Johnson. So that wide receiver race is definitely going to be something to look out for. Quarterback race is going to be something to look out for.
Yeah, the backup quarterback. I was going to say, it's just nice to know that we have like a competition for wide receiver 4 this year and not wide receiver 3, like we've been doing for like 10 years now. So that's kind of exciting there. KJ Osborne, man.
Remember when it was just rough? It was rough at wide receiver for the Vikings for a little bit there before Adam Thielen got there and Stephon Diggs. When we were dealing with the likes of Jerome Simpson, we were rolling Mike Wallace out there, the corpse of Greg Jennings. Like it was
right?
rough
Bernard
being in front of
Berrien.
Vikings fans. Like
Yeah, yeah.
Matthew
And now we're
Hatchett,
spoiled,
dude.
man. We're
We
spoiled. We've been
literally
spoiled.
we literally have ran Matthew Hatchett out there at receiver. I know this was like 10 years ago,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
we're running Matthew Hatchett out there at receiver. It was rough. And now we got a plethora of receivers: JJ, Adam Thielen,
Right.
KJ. Now we're looking at talent at the wide receiver 4 position. So we're like, well, do you want speed? Do you want a route runner? Do you want
Mm-hmm.
size?
Mm-hmm.
And speaking on that, I'll actually ask you this. I don't know if you noticed, but Irv Smith has been lining up a lot at receiver. Do you
Oh,
think he
really?
could possibly be that kind of wide receiver 4
Um,
type of option?
I do. It'll be interesting to see what they do with, because I honestly, I'm a big KJ Osborne believer. Now, I just think, I don't know. He's just, his hands last year just catching everything like 10-yard bullets from Kirk. So I really like him, but Irv, there's no question, like that's one of the biggest things about him is that he's a good receiving tight end. That was like what we were hoping for. Even when he was behind Kyle Rudolph, who also was pretty similar in that area, different kind of player or whatever. But I can definitely see that they're going to try to get Irv Smith on the field for passes, I think, a lot, but it'll be interesting how they do that with both him and KJ Osborne. Maybe we'll see a lot more of that lining up at wide receiver and not seeing the wide receiver 4 very often this season.
Yeah, I think what was it, about a week ago, maybe 2? There's a big emphasis on KJ. I think it was KJ. He was in an interview and he's saying it's going to be a whole lot of movement on this offense. There's going to be a lot of shifting, a lot of moving around. And I think this is kind of a direct representation of that, of Irv Smith. He's going to be doing a lot of moving around, a lot of movement before the snap. So we may come out in 11 personnel and then okay, we're going to motion Irv Smith out wide, bring that linebacker out. Now you're looking at 6 in the box. So there's a lot of things you could do with Irv, but the one thing that worries me is that outside of Irv, we don't know what the rest of this tight end room looks like. I mean, it could be a bunch of dumpster truck drivers for all we know. So I mean, we got Zach Davidson, who he wasn't very impressive to me last season in preseason. He had a couple opportunities that he kind of just didn't take advantage of, a couple drop balls that he should have had. And then you have a guy like Ben Ellefson, who's more of a blocking tight end. So I don't expect him to be that guy you line up out wide or anything like that. And I believe we signed a tight end from the Broncos.
I forget what his name is.
Forget his name. And that tells you all you need to know about what we got in that tight end.
And then we got Munt, or is it Munt? Or I forgot what the name is. Is that what it is? Yeah, the rookie that we drafted, 7th round or something like that.
Yeah, Munt. Muse.
Or Muse, is that what it is? I don't know. Yeah,
Tyler Muse, but Munt, you're absolutely right as well. That's one that slipped my mind too. From the Los Angeles Rams. That's one guy that you need to pay attention to because he was an early signing. This wasn't a guy where, we need to just go grab a tight end. Let's just find somebody that's familiar with Kevin O'Connell's offense. No, that was one of the first guys we went out and signed. So we went out there and signed him for a reason. And that could possibly be for that tight end 2 position. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. I've been hearing a couple good things about him in camp. I know he had a really nice play over Harrison Smith, I believe. Harrison Smith or Lewis Cine in some 7-on-7 drills.
Okay.
But you don't know. Like, it's so up in the air with this offense and what we're going to see and how different it is because
especially going from run first offense.
Yeah, is it going to be the normal, hey, it's going to be the McVay offense and we're going to get all these motions and crazy, gadgets and getting your guys in the right position? Or is it going to be more of a mixture of, okay, we're going to get more of the Shanahan look, but we're going to get some McVay thrown in there with the motions and the movement and everything? We don't know. We don't know. So that could be a big advantage for us going into week 1 against the Packers.
Yeah.
Be a disadvantage too.
Right. I think I have a feeling I think we're going to see some guys moving around, which I'm excited for just because that was, I like Zimmer for the most part. I think he was a good coach. Obviously, this last season was kind of, it wasn't his best. It wasn't the best at all. But I think like even though he had, he was run first, which did work a lot of times, I guess, and then defense, which when we had top defense with him, it was good. But it was always kind of boring offense. We had all the different offensive coordinators and stuff, and maybe you see a little bit, but it always like, even if you see, we started doing a gadget play, let's say it worked, it's always go back to the run play, go back to the run again. It's like, it worked, but then it's like, all right, we did your play. So let's like run the rest of the game. So this year I'm excited to see a little bit more.
It's funny because the gadget plays we talk about under Mike Zimmer, I guarantee you we'll probably name the same exact gadget play that they've ran, and it's always been a reverse to Justin Jefferson
right.
or Stephon Diggs that gives him the option to throw it. I don't think we've ever seen any other type of gadget play from this Vikings team in the past 10 so odd years. Like, so I feel like that motion and that creativity that we've been begging for it seems like 2 to 3 years now.
Yeah,
I think we're finally gonna get that.
Dude,
I just hope it's not an overdose of it.
Yeah, like too much. It is.
Yeah,
that is
I know you know exactly what I mean.
Yeah,
I know. Okay, let's pump the brakes on this fancy shit a little bit. Let's just play football. Like, let's run the ball sometimes. So I think
not to get too crazy, but
it's gonna be a while before we find that balance.
Yeah, and it's just it's crazy because we just how deep we are in talent is insane to me. And if KOC can figure it out and how to get the ball into the right player's hands at the right time and stuff like that. I mean, we have even guys like Kine Nuganu, like you have a guy that can bust one out. I mean, that's what I think he's going to prove himself to be the best kick returner this year. And you have that guy that you could just, kind of some Cordero Patterson type plays with a guy like him. And like you said, Irv Smith, I mean, our fourth receiver is ISM. He started putting it together at the end of last season. We got Naylor. I mean, there's so much talent on that offense that I don't know. Back to the tight end thing, I did want to say that was another thing. I think the Kyle Rudolph thing going to Tampa Bay, I do have a feeling that it probably was between us and Tampa Bay. Kyle Rudolph has always loved being a Viking. He was like a mascot for the Vikings, I felt like, when he played here. But obviously you get asked like Tom, if you get a chance to play with Tom Brady and get a Gronkowski role, I don't know how you turn that down.
You're thinking Super Bowl at that point.
Yeah. So it's like hard to turn that down, but I have a feeling that's kind of what we were hoping was going to roll up for us, which would have been, I think Kyle Rudolph's days are ended as far as being like a really good tight end, but someone that knows the other players around, and we just know we can plug them in there and get something out of them.
I mean, if anybody's gonna squeeze whatever's left out of Kyle Rudolph, Tom Brady's the guy to do it. So I mean, we all know Kyle Rudolph isn't a yards after catch guy. He's not gonna get yet. Right. So red zone target's one thing, but everything else. Look, I would have liked to have Kyle back because that would have helped us with tight end depth, and he obviously wouldn't have come back as a tight end one. Irv Smith would be the tight end one. But I'm not opposed to it. And there's still other options out there for veteran tight ends if you really need to go out there and get a veteran tight end. Eric Ebron would be a perfect fit if we really need to go out there and sign the tight end. He's very similar to kind of what Irv Smith does. He's bigger than Irv Smith, but he's one of those guys you can line up out wide. You can put one-on-one. You can give him a 50-50 ball on a fade route, and he can come down with it. He's that type of player. So I'm not, advocating for us to go out there and sign Eric Ebron, but there was better options out there that fit the direction the Vikings were going outside of Kyle Rudolph. But with the history that Kyle has had with the organization and everything else that you got to take into effect, I wasn't necessarily opposed to bringing him back. It would have been kind of a win-win in that sense, even though there's better options out there.
Yeah. I agree. It was definitely like a depth move that if Irv did go down, at least you have someone that knows a little bit of, the environment, I guess. Because like you said, like there's just feeling like there's just a massive gap under Irv Smith, and if he goes down, it's kind of like it just feels like we just don't have a tight end now. Luckily we have all these extra wide receivers, but
that's when we gotta line them up out wide, and then just let him go. Sling it away, Kirk, and hopefully we can get some protections.
Yep.
So let's shift our way to the defensive side of the ball. And I mean, the biggest standout for the defensive side of the ball training camp thus far is the rookie, Andrew Booth Jr. There has been multiple reports of him being very chippy and talking and confident and loud, which I personally love. I personally feel that this team has lacked for a really long time. We've always had the talent. We've always had, the smart, intelligent players, but we lack dogs on the team.
Yeah. We have like the quiet assassins, guys like Harrison Smith and Daniil Hunter. Like they're some of the best players at their positions in the entire NFL, but they're so quiet. You don't hear them talk much, whatever. We did have Everson Griffin. He was kind of like the heart and soul of that type idea.
Yeah.
But man, it is nice to know that Andrew Booth kind of has that mentality, especially from the cornerback. Because you see that from like the Jalen Ramseys, the Richard Shermans, they kind of have that swag a little bit. So it's kind of good that he's coming in and has that.
Yeah, I mean, that confidence breeds success. You can't go into the game and, I hope I can do this. I hope I can do that. More than half the game is mental. And, any professional athlete will tell you that. You can sit here and say it's physical and you're the biggest and you're the strongest and fastest guy. But at the end of the day, when it's in between those white lines and you're not confident and your mental's not right, you're not going to perform to your best ability. Now, Andrew Booth's confidence is through the roof, and he let you know about it. There was a report from Will Regatz. He tweeted that he was covering ISM downfield, had the clamps on him, almost intercepted the ball. ISM had to become the defender at that point and broke up the pass. But Andrew Booth got right back up, got in his face, started talking shit. Oh, you want to get physical with me? What? Like, let's go. So that's what this defense has been lacking for so long, in my opinion, that we've always had the tools to be the best defense in the league or top 3 defense in the league, but we've always lacked that attitude to where I need a little bit of shit talking. I need somebody to get in somebody's face. Like, I love, like you said, the quiet assassin. We love Harrison Smith. We love Daniil Hunter. Right. I mean, Eric Kendricks he's not a loud, talkative guy. He's not going to talk shit like that. So we necessarily haven't had even Everson Griffin. He was the guy to get your team hyped, be the guy in the middle of the huddle to get going. But he's not necessarily the guy that's going to get in his opponent's face and really talk shit and get in their head. Andrew Booth seems like that guy.
Yeah, it's like the Patrick Beverly thing, kind of like what he did with the Timberwolves last year, right?
Yeah,
where you kind of you get a guy that can get in people's heads. It's just like there's a mental game to football. You can have all skill in the world, but if you can't handle like that mental part, you can crumble, especially if you're like a quarterback or a kicker or something. Of course. But dude, I agree. I think that's awesome from him. But I think so that's super exciting that he has that in him. I think what I'm really excited about is his interception against Kirk, covering JJ. During the draft process or whatever, we were creating videos based on like our top 5 favorite players from each position or whatever. And then when we dived into Andrew Booth, something that stuck out for sure was his ability to make interceptions. But not just that, you could tell that when you watch a clip, you almost would not have known that he wasn't the wide receiver, because the way he goes up and turns on, gets the football and it just, he just has that knack. Yeah, he's a ball. He has that knack for interception. Of all the players in the draft, even guys like Sauce and Singletary, he seemed to have the most natural ability for interceptions, just based on his, I don't know, just his receiving skills.
And it's almost the opposite of the type of corner that we've been drafting in the past. You look at guys like Mike Hughes and Trey Waynes, and I mean, outside of Xavier Rhodes, guys like that, they weren't Jeff Gladney, for instance, they weren't necessarily ball hawks. They were guys that were technical, footwork was the type of guy that Mike Zimmer wants. I want your footwork right. I need you in position, which is totally cool, totally fine. but they weren't necessarily ball hawks. They weren't going to go up and get it. Andrew Booth, like you said, when you guys looked back on film, looked like he was running the route for the receiver.
Yeah.
And then there's times where I forgot what interception it was, but the dude's hang time was like ridiculous. He
Dude,
floated,
there's that one-handed too,
like from one hash to the other hash, and just kind of
Yeah.
floated across the sky for a one-handed interception.
It stands out, man. I mean, you've watched so many cornerbacks. You know, any fan has seen tons of cornerbacks, ton of stuff. Sometimes you watch a player, highlight video or whatever. Yeah, it's highlights, but you can just tell something different. Like something stands out, and when his interception just stands out, like it just looks like he's a good receiver playing cornerback. And him intercepting Kirk Cousins already against Justin Jefferson is a very positive thing to see this early in training camp. And, you know, it's probably the highlight out of all of the other things that he's already doing. He's doing everything right. Plus he's healthy, as he says, and he hasn't been healthy throughout college or whatever, not 100% healthy. So, I mean, if that's the case too, and he had pretty good coverage ability too. So, you know, hopefully he comes in, he beats that ball hawk, and maybe he can cover a little bit better than Trevon Diggs, but still have that same ball hawk ability.
Yeah, right. I mean, his direct competitor in Cameron Dantzler is also having a pretty good start to training camp as well. So, I mean, I'm asking the question here is Andrew Booth legitimately making a case for that cornerback 2 spot, even with Cameron Dantzler having a good training camp?
Man, it's a hard one. It's hard. Obviously, we can go down this road a little bit with Cameron Bynum too, but man, it's tough.
Yeah.
I think. See, I'm a big Cameron Bynum, or not Cameron. I do like Cameron. I'm a big Cam Dantzler guy. I really like him. It's the Patrick Peterson kind of, they're just letting him have that cornerback 1 job, which makes, I get it, because the dude's a legend. You know, he's 31 or whatever. Like he could have a really good season this year. So I have a hard time believing they're going to allow Patrick Peterson to like not be a cornerback 1 or cornerback 2 for whatever reason. Just feels that way. I don't know. Maybe that's just like the fan base thing. But I have a feeling that there's a chance that Cam Dantzler at some point in the season and Andrew Booth could be the better options there. Because the thing about Cam Dantzler, I mean, after his rookie season, he was the number 1 rated rookie cornerback from like a coverage standpoint after his rookie season. Last year, he was in the doghouse. Yeah. And, you know, he still probably was our most consistent cornerback when he did play, even compared to Patrick Peterson. So I don't know. I feel like, I think a lot of people, we get Andrew Booth. He's super exciting. You know, 2nd round pick, steal. And then you're kind of thinking like, oh, he can take that spot from Cam Dantzler. I think we want Cam Dantzler to be super good. You know, we're not going to have Patrick Peterson forever. So best case scenario is both those guys, you know, end up being dogs. And if it does come down, maybe it comes down to a cornerback 1A or 2A, 2B type of thing. I don't really know. Hopefully we can figure out a way to get all 3 of them on the field as much as possible. And, you know, same thing with our safety situation.
I mean, it's been a while since we've been comfortable with our cornerback depth as well. So I mean, outside of it's
such a good problem to have. It's such a good problem to have, man. After a season like last year in our secondary.
Oh God, man, let's not get into that one.
Hey, it's good now though. We're good.
No, it is definitely. Outside of the unproven factor, we're kind of going off of potential from these guys of us talking about having options at the cornerback position. Because let's be real, Cameron Dantzler is not proven yet. We really don't know what Cameron Dantzler is. We've seen good Cameron Dantzler, and we've seen really bad Cameron Dantzler. Right. And Cameron Dantzler, to me, in my opinion, is kind of the opposite of Andrew Booth. He doesn't have a knack for the ball. Yeah, you know, like we've seen multiple times where he gets lost to where he can't find the ball and it just zips right past him to DK Metcalf for, you know, a first down. So it's yet to be seen what Cameron Dantzler is going to be. We see the potential, you know, same with Irv Smith. Going back to Irv Smith, we see the potential. We've been talking about this. It seems like for 2-3 years now. Oh, this is Irv Smith's breakout year. Like, well, injury happened last year. We know that stopped that. But when is he going to break out? This is the year to do it. Because if he doesn't do it this year, then we're going to be looking for another tight end. So the options that we have at the cornerback position right now, and you bringing up Patrick Peterson and kind of putting them in that mix for competition is actually, it's legitimate, because we got to look towards the future too. Kwesi always says this, we want to be good. We want to be competitive. We want to go out there and feel like we have a Super Bowl contending team, but we're also not going to risk our future and go out there and do something and mess up something we possibly have in the future. So I honestly think this is Patrick Peterson's last season with the team. And we're hoping that Cam Dantzler can groom into that cornerback 1 or cornerback 2, whether Andrew Booth, elevates himself to that cornerback 1 position. So we're in a good position right now. If everything pans out and everything goes as planned as far as production and progression for these younger players, we're in a great spot. But we all know a lot of things happen in very short amount of time. And a month from now, 2 months from now, we could be sitting here talking about Cameron Dantzler is terrible. We need to get Andrew Booth in there, or vice versa. So a lot of things can change. But in my opinion, Booth is making a case for cornerback 2, but I don't want him out there week 1 against Aaron Rodgers. I don't. I'm sorry. You haven't played against a guy of Aaron Rodgers' caliber yet. Although Cameron Dantzler hasn't had much success against Aaron Rodgers, he's been there before. So I'd much rather run Cameron Dantzler and Patrick Peterson out there than run Patrick Peterson and a rookie out there. I don't necessarily want to throw him to the fire. And I also want to see what Cameron Dantzler is really made of this season.
Yeah, especially with the hype. This training camp with him, it's like, kind of have to slow it down on Andrew Booth type of thing, because Cam Dantzler is looking pretty good. I agree. I think I don't mind the idea. That's a good thing about Cam Dantzler and having him is I think he's a player that at the very least it might come down to we start the season with Cam Dantzler and then and Andrew Booth it's not like the Zimmer thing where he doesn't start any rookies. Yeah. Even when you have a guy that he obviously could be better than in the starting lineup, we have a guy like Cam Dantzler, who we actually hope to be good too. So you can kind of go into the season and just have Cameron Dantzler there. And if he doesn't do that well enough or whatever, then you can kind of put Booth in there. Obviously I want to see, I love being able to see rookies, and everybody wants to see our rookies start just to see what we have, even though it could be early or whatever. But yeah, I think a guy like Cam Dantzler is still pretty good. And the same situation with Lewis Cine and Cameron Bynum. How do you feel about that situation? How do you think that's going to roll?
Yeah, I was actually going to touch on that next. And it's kind of the same situation to where, really you draft a guy in the first round, you expect him to be a starter. And I mean, going back to what you said, this isn't the Mike Zimmer regimen to where, they're looking at a rookie regardless of where you drafted them, and they're like, you're a rookie. We're not going to start you just yet. This is a young coaching staff. They think outside the box. They draft you in the first round, they're going to expect you to start. But Cam Bynum has been looking really good in training camp. He got a pick off Kirk Cousins in the red zone. I've heard he made a few other good plays as far as the tweets that I've been seeing on Twitter. But that's a tough one because, again, I like Cam Bynum. I do. I think he's going to be a really good player. But you drafted Lewis Cine in the first round, and we've seen the type of player that Lewis Cine is. He's got some attitude. He's going to put those shoulders on you, and that's what I think we need on this defense. But I think what's going to be interesting with that is that Ed Donatel, he's going to give multiple looks on the defensive side of the ball. And let's not forget, Cam Bynum played corner in college. So he's a true defensive back. He's not just a safety. He's not just a corner. He's a true defensive back. You can line him up in multiple spots on the field. So don't be surprised if you see 3 safety looks from this defense with Harrison Smith, Lewis Cine, and Cam Bynum. Bring Lewis Cine up to the line of scrimmage. Bring Harrison Smith up to the line of scrimmage. Have Cam Bynum deep. So I think that is what we're going to see. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a big emphasis on who's the starter, who's not the starter. I think they're going to get similar playing time. I really do. And I think that starts week 1, even against Aaron Rodgers. I think it's going to be about 50-50 as far as reps go with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I think we're going to see not a lot of like nickel cornerback playing this year, like the slot corners. I
Mm-hmm.
think we're going to see that go backwards, specifically just because we do have that talent in Andrew Booth, Cam Dancer, and the Bynum. So it's like I'd almost rather have them on the field than have Sullivan, even though
Yeah.
Sullivan's solid, but you kind of know what he is.
It
I don't
goes
know.
back to that depth though. We should feel
Right,
very
right. I
comfortable
know.
with the depth we
Yeah,
got in the defensive back room. We really should.
right.
Like
Yeah,
we're
it's huge.
I'm not gonna say loaded, but we're
Yeah.
whether it's future or whether it's just this season, you should feel really good about that
Yeah.
defensive back room.
And an underrated part about that is, I mean, we got so many young players back there. At the same,
Mhm.
so it's deep, it's getting deep, and it's young players. But then we have like a very strong veteran presence at the safety position and the cornerback position in Harrison Smith and Patrick Peterson. So
Yeah.
you have these young guys and all this young talent, but you have these like two of the best players at their position easily in the last 10 years. I'll say ever. Harrison Smith is on the ever list. And Patrick Peterson, people easily say he's probably on the ever list, but
Yeah.
still, you have that kind of talent, veteran presence that can kind of coach them up a little bit. So
Mhm.
I mean, that's what's so nice about our defense is there's such strong veteran presence there, as well as having the mix of these young guys coming up.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot of things to look forward to and be excited about this team as far as individual players. So that takes us to the last thing I wanted to touch on. And we got to give a congratulations to
Yep.
Jared Allen, former defensive end of the Minnesota Vikings, officially being inducted to the Ring of Honor for the Minnesota Vikings. His name is going to go up in US Bank Stadium. Number not retired, which I still don't understand why the Vikings don't do that. But,
Right.
anyways, Jared Allen going up in the Ring of Honor. I'm going to ask you, what was your biggest Jared Allen memory? Because that was right in the middle of, like I said, we were on the same track as far as
Kind of
becoming a
Adrian
Vikings fan.
Peterson.
That was prime
Man,
Adrian Peterson.
it would have to still be just, I would say, his season, what he got, 22 and a half or whatever. It sucked that he was a half a yard short of the
Yeah,
record, or he tied
22
the
and
record with
22 and a
Michael's
half was the record.
22 and a half. Now, TJ Watt, he's also tied it, or did he break it?
I
Or
think he
not quite.
tied it.
Tied it. So it's
Tied it.
that. And then, so he tied Jared Allen, and then Jared Allen tied Michael Strahan. But that
Mhm.
was the biggest one. That season was crazy. And that was when we knew like we had the best defensive end in the league. And it was
Weren't we
just
3-13 that season too?
I actually don't remember what our record was that
I think we
season.
were terrible
So we
that
were
year.
a terrible team, but we had Jared Allen going off. You gotta love the rope thing. Gotta love that they made him so that he couldn't put his knee on the ground anymore because that was like excessive or something. So he had to like keep his knee up. But no, that was a big one. It sucked that he couldn't just get that half sack more. I remember that last game. I think he got like 2 sacks or something. It's just like,
Uh-huh.
it's that's a hard stat. Like it's not like Justin Jefferson last year in the last game where it's like, all right, let's feed Justin
Yeah.
Jefferson, even though we didn't do it, unfortunately, but let's feed this wide receiver, until he can break the record. A sack, that's difficult. Like
Yeah.
like everybody's trying to make sure you're not sacking their quarterback. So if you can go get a record like that when it's in clutch time, man, that's a pretty wild one to break, I
I
think.
remember that game specifically. We were playing the Bears. Is week 17. I believe it was at home. I'm almost positive it was at home in Minnesota. And I remember it got to about 4 minutes left in the game. And the Bears were down. We ended up winning the game. The Bears were down in that game. And the Bears are so petty that they knew Jared Allen was going to break the record, that they were down in the game. So instead of actually trying to win the game and throw the ball and risk getting
Yeah,
sacked, they decided to run the
run
ball
the
and just
ball.
ran the clock out for the game. So I was really sitting there like, oh, these motherfuckers, they really just did Jared
Dude,
Allen like this. Like, it was so disrespectful to your guy, Jared Allen. That's one big memory
right.
I have of him. But my number one memory of Jared Allen, man, was the obviously the Donald Penn one comes up. What was it, a Thursday night game, I think? And him and Donald Penn got into it, and he got his helmet ripped off, and
Mm-hmm.
they were talking shit back and forth to each other. Very next play, boom, Jared Allen sacked. And it brings up fourth down. They had to punt it.
Dude,
And
yeah.
The
That's
Metrodome went crazy. So that was one
right,
for me. But
right.
the other one that really stands out for me was the 4.5 sack game against the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. And I believe that was the same game Brett Favre came back to play the
And home game
Packers
or
when he was
Lambeau
in
Field?
Minnesota.
Yeah, I actually went to that game.
Oh, you went to the 4.5
Yeah,
sack game with Jared Allen?
yeah, which I actually kind of forgot about that. That
How you
happened there,
forget
but it was
about that?
the Jared Allen, because it was the Brett Favre going back. Brett Favre playing the Packers. That's what it was. Like Brett Favre playing the Packers, and then we
It
beat
kind of
them.
outshined it.
Yeah. So when you bring that up, I'm like Brett Favre thing, but okay, that makes sense though.
Yeah, that was probably my biggest memory of Jared Allen. But just overall, what Jared Allen did for me as just a fan of the team in general is that it made me excited about watching defense. Now,
Right.
when you're first a fan, especially Vikings and the time that we became Vikings fans, it's all about Randy Moss. It's all about Randall Cunningham, Dante Culpepper, Chris Carter, Robert Smith, Adrian Peterson. It's offense.
Right.
And, we have this rich history of defense, don't get me wrong. But when you're a young kid, you're so focused on, the team that scores the most points is the team I like, in a sense. So Jared Allen gave me the fandom for defense, to where when it was our time to come out on defense, I got excited. I said, I get to watch Jared Allen get after it. So it's almost like having Adrian Peterson on the defensive side of the ball. So instead of running for, 60, 70-yard touchdowns, we're getting sacks on the defensive side of the ball, strip sacks on the defensive side of the ball. So Jared Allen he has a huge part in the fandom that I have for the Vikings. It's just the energy that he brought to the games and how fun it made watching Vikings defense. So
I agree. Like outside of him, I'm trying to think. We've had definitely very talented player, but like as far as like a superstar type vibe player, I mean, have we had anyone else on defense that you could even put in comparison
that's like a
to Jared?
superstar like that? And
like not quite like that, because he had not even persona, but he just had that like I don't know, that rodeo thing. Yeah, the personality to him. So that's like kind of how some superstars kind of need that personality. I don't know. There's all that stuff that kind of creates like that public figure.
I mean, I would say Daniil Hunter, but he doesn't have that personality.
Right. He's the quiet guy, but he's
not charismatic like Jared Allen is.
Yeah.
So
Brian Robinson kind of had that charismatic a little bit more, but
if I'm being honest, probably John Randall would be the last one.
Yeah. Before him, for sure.
He would be the last one that really brought that energy to where you can really see it on the field. Like, oh shit.
Everson Griffin had his moments and stuff for sure, but
but as far as greatness and numbers go, I love Everson Griffin. He's I feel like he's an all-time great as far as Vikings history. But Jared Allen is on a different level, I feel, than Everson Griffin.
Definitely.
That I can't I can't even explain it. Like, you just always had to keep your eyes on Jared Allen, whether you were a fan of the Vikings or whether you're an opponent of the Vikings. You always got to keep your eye on Jared Allen. And it's an absolute honor. Congratulations. Jared Allen is going in to the Ring of Honor for the Minnesota Vikings. I believe October 30th, which I'm not sure exactly what game that is. I think it might be the Cowboys game. One about those. Mike McDonald says, what about Chris Dolman? So we're talking about as more as like charismatic, who brings that personality, who's gonna, say something in the mic after the game. Jared Allen was that guy. John Randall was that guy that's gonna speak up, that's gonna say something, might say something crazy that's hilarious to where you can't help it but laugh. But again, Jared Allen, Ring of Honor for the Minnesota Vikings. His name will be going up next to other greats, Randy Moss, Kevin Williams, all those guys up there in the stadium. So congratulations again to Jared Allen. But
the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, man, that's what's next.
That's what's next. That's got to be next. I mean, come on.
I mean, dude, stats
should already been happening.
I can pull up the stats right now, man. Just,
I
what is
mean, 22.
136 and a half sacks? Let me see here. 136 and a half sacks. We got some breaking news. Not Vikings breaking news, but 49ers give Deebo Samuel a 3-year, $71 million
Is that less than DK?
extension. What was that?
Was that less than DK?
DK was right around the same.
The same thing.
Yeah, I know it was in the $70 million range.
All right, so he's staying there.
Range.
We don't need him anyway.
Right. We got plenty of wide receivers. We're good. But Jared Allen's stats, 503 tackles, 136 sacks, 31 forced fumbles, and 6 interceptions as a defensive end.
Yeah,
and I believe he holds the record for safeties too, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he has 3 or 4 safeties.
Dude, he was a stud, man. I mean, man, maybe Andrew Booth would bring that personality, but at cornerback, kind of that Jalen Ramsey type vibe.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need that attitude, man. That's all
one of those players. Yeah,
that attitude. So again, we got a lot to look forward to. We thank you guys for tuning in to SKOL Report and the Purple Code. Again, this is Jamie. You will be seeing him every Thursday with his partner in crime, Casey, starting August 11th. Every Thursday, exclusively here on the Purple Code on Facebook and as well on Twitter. If you don't already, again, go subscribe to their page. It's GG Sports Podcast, right? I'm getting that right?
Yep. GG Sports
Podcast on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Show them some support, guys. But again, you'll be seeing them weekly on here. You'll be seeing their faces, so get used to it. Thank you for joining me, Jamie. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for the season. I'm excited. You know, we're working together, doing all this stuff. I'm excited to see where this all goes. You know, it's last season, like you said, was kind of tough, especially that was our first year. So we're going into our second year with our podcast. So the first year was kind of figuring a lot out. And I would assume it's a lot easier when there's a lot of excitement going on and not kind of more disappointment. But it was still, it was good learning experience. So going into this year with all this excitement, I'm pumped just to see where we head and just the content we're bringing with you guys with our own thing. And man, hopefully this is just an exciting season for all of us. It's about that time, man.
Just win. If we win, it makes everything.
Yeah, that's all we need. We just need to win. The town's 100% there. If KOC can be that coach we need, I think the possibilities are endless. So
yeah, fingers crossed. So again, guys, like I said, be sure to tune in. Their premiere show will be August 11th, Thursday, August 11th, right before our first preseason game in Las Vegas against the Raiders. So thank you for joining, guys. This is SKOL Report exclusively on the Purple Code. Myself, SK, here with Jamie G. Peace.
SKOL Vikes.